Hi everybody, this is Kourtney Jones from the illustrious Prairie View A&M University. I am a senior communication studies major, minoring in African American studies, and you're listening to the PV Girls Rock podcast, Professors Politics, episode where we celebrate the voices of our hardworking women professors on campus. This motivational podcast centers on how we as women experience events of today's time and how we can feel empowered to take action. Today's episode features depth conversations about experiencing gender bias, the wage gap in America, and other stereotypical issues. We're diving deep into those biggest political, economic, and social causes for women and discover new ways to get involved. So thank you for joining us today, ladies, and I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Erdely. I'm an associate professor of communication in the Department of Languages and Communication here.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Nabila Shamim. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Chemical Engineering.
Hello, I'm Tracey Moore. I'm the interim director of art and assistant professor in the Digital Media Arts program in the School of Architecture.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have all you ladies in session with us today, and let's dive deep into those conversations. So for the first question, historically, women have been considered second class, citizens having fewer legal rights and career opportunities than men. Today, women are still unrepresented in many leadership positions such as agriculture, politics, STEM, motion picture directors, and many more. How have gender bias or gender stereotyping played a role in your career, and can you tell us a story about what led you to your particular career path?
That's a great question as far as what led me to my particular career path and the role of gender bias. I honestly, in my first job ever, I made smoothies and made sandwiches, 16 years old. And when I was there, a manager spoke to me in a way that wasn't appropriate. And I reported it to my manager, and he ended up getting fired. So that led me to, a long path, right, where I still went to school, but I was still kind of a little, that's always in the back of your mind, right, that happened. And it made me very aware of my gender in ways that I didn't think about it before in the workplace. At LSU, I went to LSU, Louisiana State, and I made D's in accounting. And so I'm a proud D in accounting student. And but I took a class in communication, and I did pretty well in it. So that was kind of a turning point for me because I was about to drop out, and my mom was like, why don't you just take something that you're good at? And so for me, both the instance, and of course there were a lot of things that happened between when I was 16 and when I went to college, but understanding the role of communication in how males and females and talk to each other and how the power dynamics are laid out was really important for me as I decided to go into a career or multiple careers in communication, and now I'm a professor. So,
Okay. So actually, I grew up in kind of a third world country. So over there, usually women are not valued, and they are not encouraged to take STEM degrees. So most of the times you will hear, when I grew up, boys are more naturally more intelligent, and they are more good in STEM studies, and that kind of follows through young men and then to their adulthood, and definitely goes back into their workplaces. So as I was growing up, but somehow my dad is an engineer, so that kind of encouraged me. So I wanted to pursue a degree in engineering. But most of the time I was okay, as a girl, I think you should go more for medicine, even though that's a STEM one, but comparing to engineering and medical field, everybody was more interested in medical field. But I would consider myself actually lucky and very, supportive family I got. So my mom always encouraged me, you should go for your dreams. So at that point, I kind of realized, yes, there is some gender related issues like boys and girls, because in my university, we had only, out of 550 students, only like 80 were girls. So you can realize like how we went into a situation like where more men dominated environment. But gradually I did, that went pretty well, even though you kind of felt sometimes of discriminations of being girl, you cannot do this type of project. You might look into some much more simpler project. And that also happened during my PhD program, because I felt like one of my professor was like kind of asking me why you are going for more experimental based thesis work. You should go for maybe simulations that could help you to work more on computers, and encouraged me to go for those type of work. However, as I was mentioning, I did really get a good supportive family members. My spouse encouraged me and said, okay, it is your dream. What do you want to do? If you will focus more on experimental work, even though it might take a little bit more of energy and physical work, but you should go for that. So with that, I was successfully able to complete all my degrees, and I came here at PV as joined as an assistant professor. So with that, even though we faced all those issues, but I always feel like as a woman, you should also, encourage your dreams and keep on moving with your dream and move on. And that would definitely help. Thank you.
Well, I kind of think my story is a little different. I really didn't grow up thinking about gender or gender stereotypes. I grew up with my dad was very instrumental in my life, and he taught his girls how to be independent. He was very good with his hands, so he taught us to be good with our hands in terms of, I could change a tire, probably could change oil. I mean, they didn't really limit us, because my mom is the same way, and right next door was my grandmother, my other aunt, and her kids. So we grew up a very tight family unit, and so we had strong men in the household who taught his girls to be independent and to do for themselves. And the one thing he would always say is get your education, because that's one thing someone can't take away from you. So, and with my mother, my grandmother, especially my grandmother, my mom's mother, she wouldn't take no for an answer. She was probably one of the first women in her community to learn how to drive. So she would drive other people and other family around. She dropped out of high school, but ended up earning her certified nursing certificate. So she just taught us that, and they all taught us that it doesn't matter who you are, you can do anything you want to do. You just put your mind to it. And so I think probably where I grew up, I dealt more with race, so I didn't really think about gender, but, honestly, I was kind of the best at everything, and if I wasn't, I did my best at whatever I put my mind to. So I could beat anybody, girl or boy. So I didn't think about gender stereotypes. Of course, there were some double standards and there were some little things, but that didn't kind of play into who I was and who I was going to become, and how I got here. So I didn't really learn about glass ceilings and all that stuff till I got to college. I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, because I didn't see the world that way. And so, how I got here, that's all. I don't know. I don't know if we have enough time for that story, but I went to Prairie View undergrad. My mom had breast cancer, and I didn't want to go too far away. I didn't want to go to U of H. For various reasons. A&M didn't have the degree that I wanted, so Prairie View did. My sister was already here. When I came here, because she was a cheerleader, I love the atmosphere. I love the pride of the students, even though that was like during the losing streak. It was great. Like when you stepped on campus and I went to the TSU basketball games, the football games, I just loved the atmosphere, and they had the degree I wanted, so I came here. But as for me coming back here, it was one of those degrees that wasn't well funded and supported, and so it eventually closed. And because of my experience with that, I wanted to come back and bring back the degree and make sure that no student would have to deal with what I dealt with and what my other classmates and other majors dealt with trying to get our degree here. So that's kind of what brought me back here. So, yeah.
I love it. I love the different dynamics you ladies all talked about in discussion of how you actually got to where you got to in your career and how much you actually went through, what you had to think about, what you had to do, how far and how long it took you. That shows the drive, that shows the motivation, and that's what a lot of ladies miss out on nowadays, especially when it comes to education. So with that, diving a little deeper, studies show that 1 in 3 women attempt to break the glass ceiling, but fewer than half succeed. For a woman who is working in a male-dominated environment, what exactly does it take to thrive and succeed in it? And I'll actually start with Dr. Moore because I'm curious. Because I love how you know that you didn't grow up in an environment of that type of gender bias mindset and that glass ceiling mindset as well.
It's funny. I emailed Crystal. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to answer this because I think the first thing I would say is that you have to believe and know that you belong there. It all starts with your thinking and how you think about yourself, how you think about your people determines how you behave and how you act and what you do. So we all have talents. We all have strengths that we can contribute to and lead to the success of whatever organization, corporation, we've been at where we are. So, I'm very fortunate to be in the sorority that I'm in because a lot of my line sisters, they're leaders and engineers, project managers, lawyers, doctors. So I get to hear their stories about being in these male-dominated environments. Some of the things I learned from them, know when to speak up, know when to be assertive, know that every battle is not meant to be fought by you, but you just got to know, like, when is the right time. Someone also said, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by you? Does it need to be said right now? Like, a lot of times it's just understanding, like, coming into a room and just getting a feel for the room and getting a feel for the people and understanding that dynamic and how you can work around that, work through that, and succeed. So, and the major thing is know your principles, know your foundations, know your morals, and stand on that and don't waver. Because when you waver, that's when you start to fall. But that's the one thing. It all starts in your mind, in your heart. If you know you're supposed to be there and you know you have value and you know you can contribute, then you move in that.
Yeah, actually, I do agree with Dr. Stephanie Moore because she actually kind of said most of the things. And so to staying in a male-dominated environment, because particularly I have lived in different parts of the world. I grew up in Southeast Asia, then went to a more developed country, Singapore, and then I came to U.S. But there is always, I have felt like there is some dominations. But when girls wants to do something and they have the dream inside them, definitely they can achieve it. That's the thing. And with the support of the families, that also that kind of like a positive initiative that also always gives you. So I believe they need to have like a progressive and positive mindset that, yes, you know what you have done and you have, how you can contribute. Definitely you can dig into it and go more deeper into it and give the best out to the world, and no one can stop. That's what I think. And definitely we need to have build the self-confidence. Like, you need to have your confidence in yourself. Like, I know this, and I know I'll be able to achieve it, and able to, like, speak for yourself. Like, okay, this is what I am, and I'll be able to contribute like this way. And on top of that, also, I kind of seen like, sometimes it always, like, as Dr. Stephanie was saying, that how you say it. Sometimes having some role model, that always I feel that's like a best. Okay, I have someone to look up, and that's how I can picture myself in the future. So by looking into this way, you can definitely succeed in life.
Yeah, thanks. I think y'all said what I was thinking, and so I appreciate it. I also just want to build on that idea of reading the room and of having role models. I think, we're constantly told, or I'm constantly told, STEM, hard sciences, soft sciences, and my degree is in communication. And that's what actually employers are looking for, are those quote unquote soft skills. But I think soft skills is a poor way to put it. Personally, I take umbrage with that term, but it is about reading the room and knowing when and how, and the motivation behind what you're saying, and that's exactly what Dr. Moore was saying. And also, I don't think that I would have succeeded without the help of close confidants who also can read the room. Both male and female. And, I had a mentor. Well, I made her my mentor. She was my friend. And then I was like, you're going to be my mentor, and who led the way for me. And I got to see, okay, this is how she did it. And that, I wouldn't have been able to do it without those things.
I completely agree with all of those, from the role models to just knowing yourself, having that confidence. You all need that in a way to just grow and thrive. So I appreciate that. But moving into the last question, how has gender equality, just talking about that, we got to highlight how has gender equality can be considered to be an indicator of developed and prosperous societies. Unfortunately, women in developing nations often have less access to education. Developing nations, developing healthcare, they often lack economic freedom, and they are underrepresented in the decision-making process at higher levels. What are some causes that you support, and what are some ways we can help get involved in women empowerment and around the world?
I have so much to say about this, honestly. I think that, of course, there are women in other countries that are treated more poorly than we are in the United States. However, I feel strongly that the structures that we even have here in the United States need to be reevaluated if women are going to be as successful as we are capable of being. My research is actually in chronic pain research, and of course, women are less believed, and then women of color are less believed than women. Generally speaking, we have to believe women, and we have to allow women the mechanisms, the ways to structure society, governments, organizations in ways that will benefit women, and women of color in particular. So, the organizations that I support most strongly are the ones where, let women be educated and let women do what they know how to do. So don't legislate women who know what they're doing. Does that make sense?
Okay. So actually, yes, since I kind of came from that kind of country, and we are still struggling, even though right now the situation is much better in in the third world countries, but still I mean, there are, if you consider like women working in the workplace, there is always issues of work-life balances, because back there, sometimes when women tries to go for families and stuff, and they're not getting enough, like sometimes you cannot continue in the job anymore. You have to like, stop and go. So right now, like I always think like, yes, you do need to think about like believing like they have the capability, and you have to also give some opportunities like that can help them to move, like some work-life balances that needs to be maintained. And right now, actually, I am working with some of the not organization, I should say, like my old school and academics, to do some collaborations with them. So how we can like from here, how I can actually help students over there, or like mentor students in how to balance in life, or like how to get more involved in STEM educations. So we organize some conferences and workshop, because I think like attending or organizing conferences or seminars, that helps you to do better networking. So professionals in your own areas, and listen to like, some motivational talks. So everywhere students can get more encouraged, and they know like how to like plan for their life, and how to like handle those type of hurdles that can come, because somehow people has nice different stories, like how they have faced different issues in their life, and sharing those stories and letting people know. So third world countries people, sometimes they say that they are not going to get into some positions, they cannot even dream for that positions. So hearing those things and networking with people, like with professional, they can actually dream for it, and they can say yes, they can also achieve it. So currently, actually, I'm working with that and mentoring some students, so we can enhance more STEM educations and encourage the people.
Okay, that's a tough question. I mean, if we're thinking about around the world, I'll just say this. I'm a Christian, so my perspective on things may be a little different. But, around the world, we're fighting against cultural differences, perspectives on gender roles. And, that may not be a battle that we can win right now, but it's certainly a battle you can gear up for every day. In different ways. Right now, in terms of empowering women, at my church, I co-lead a ministry, a recovery ministry. So it's kind of similar to, it's kind of based on Celebrate Recovery, but it's all about addressing your hurts, hangups, and habits, and we all have them. So hurts are any trauma that you've had from childhood till now. Your hangups are what you think about yourselves and others based on those hurts, and your habits are things you do to soothe those hurts. So, in order for women, because in our ministry, women work with women, men work with men. In order for the women that I work with and minister to, it's like we can't be effective in what we're called to do as Christians, which is to love God and to love our neighbors, we love ourselves, if we're not healthy ourselves, mentally, spiritually, physically. So, that's the work. It's like 3 nights a week. This week it's 4. But it's really getting women to become free from those hurts, so that they could function into society, so they could be better people, better Christians, love on their neighbor more. And that has a ripple effect that goes out. And I'm always, I'm always a believer of doing what you feel your purpose in life is, or if you're a believer, what God's purpose for you is. My purpose right now is not to do international things, but my purpose is to help the women that's in my community and around me, because I know that will have a ripple effect. But, if that is someone's mission and purpose to help women in other nations and other countries that are being treated inhumanely, don't have as many rights, then I say go for it. And for people like me, my job is to help you do that. So if that means city donations, in-kind donations, sponsoring somebody to trip, because my church they're starting to do a lot more international missions, but it's very intentional in what they're doing. And the last church, we kind of branched away from and became our own autonomous church, but the last church we were a part of, they went into places like Uganda and built orphanages, but it wasn't just to build an orphanage. It's to talk to the people there, like, what do you need from us? Not us saying what we think you need, but it's what do you need from us? So they built orphanages in a different way and schools where instead of one building with hundreds of kids, it's one building with 8 kids and one person or one dorm mother assigned to that group. So, I always say you have to start from within, and you start from the home, and go with your passion. But for me, helping the women and seeing the women around me grow in their faith, turn their life around, get freedom from that trauma that kind of binds them from being as successful or being the people that they want to be, that's the empowering thing for me. And I know that because it affects their families, it affects the people at their jobs, and they see the change, and they wonder, like, how or why. So, it's, for that, it's, as any person, you got to find your purpose. And if your purpose or you feel being called to do international and help women internationally, do that. If you're not, help indirectly. So, yeah.
Well, that's all we have today for the 3rd episode. I greatly appreciate all you ladies for coming in today. This was such an organic and in-depth conversation, especially the last question. I really appreciated it. But before we go, can we please get a best way to contact you ladies, just in case future students want to contact you, or maybe your students who need some more office hours or anything like that, tutoring hours?
Anybody can email me, Moore with 2 O's, at pvmu.edu. And my students know where to find me. We have group meet chats. We're in class 6 hours, a lot of hours a week. So they know my door is always open. But anybody else, Moore at pvmu.edu.
Yeah. So anybody can email me. So my email address is NA, then my last name, Shamim, SHAMIM, at pvamu.edu. So yeah, usually my doors are open. We are in the engineering building, C.L. Wilson. So anybody can, if needed, stop by and wanted to talk, that's fine.
You can find me at my email address, JL Erdely, which is spelled ERDELY, at pvamu.edu. And my office is right next door to the TV studio. So you'll either find me in one of those spaces. So thank you for having us.
Perfect. There you have it. Thank you for listening to our episode of PV Girls Rock Podcast. You will be equally parts informed and intrigued. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube at PVAMU and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for coming in.